Hey everyone, welcome to our Big View event. I'm Bruno Lopez, partner manager at Big View, and I couldn't be more excited to be here today. Before we start, please leave in the chat the city that you are right now, because we're about to learn how to look like a boss on camera, how to really look good and overcome these fears, these roadblocks on content creation that we have, and how to really sound as sharp as you want on camera. But before we start, let me also mention a few giveaways that we have today. We have a very special guest, but also we have a few giveaways to the attendees that stuck with us until the end. So we have a very special giveaway from Big View, and our guest, our speaker, also give you the right to get a one-on-one session. So without further ado, today we're having a session with someone that is truly amazing to guide us on this process, how to good on camera. She's an Emmy Award-winning broadcaster. Her name is Kerry Barrett. She basically has helped thousands of people on the camera and connect with the audience with confidence. And what else can I say? Kerry, welcome to the stage and let us know more about you and how you can help us really look good on camera. I want to know more about that.
Well, fantastic, Bruno. You already look great on camera, so you don't have anything to worry about.
Is the ring light?
but I'll tell you what, that's not how it works for most people, and it's certainly not how it worked for me when I first started my career on camera as well. So thank you for that introduction. I will talk a little bit about the giveaways that I have for the audience in just a moment as well. But I have a question for the audience, and here's the question that I want to ask you. Have you ever watched a video of yourself, and maybe it was a Zoom call, and maybe it was a marketing call or something along those lines, or maybe it was a quick clip from your phone, and you had that sort of sinking feeling in your stomach, like, oh no, do I really look like that? Because I have been there 100%. Maybe your voice sounded a little bit strange. Maybe it was higher pitched, or it was a little more monotone than you had imagined. Maybe you looked a little stiff or a little awkward, or maybe you look like a statue that was trying to appear like a human. And then there's one that gets so many of us, and that is when we're so focused on what it is that we want to say, on getting the words right, that you completely forget to actually connect with a person that is watching you. And I get it, right? If you're here, I can feel your smiles and I can feel your winces, because most of us have been there. As Bruno mentioned, I was a TV news anchor for a very long time. My very first on-camera job was a news anchor. It was a really small local station in Texas. If you're from the United States, from Texas. If you're not from the States, it's in the sort of middle of the country. And I had the suit, and I had the hair, the helmet hair, and I had the chair, and I had the news desk and all that good stuff. And I had the absolute terror as well. I looked like a deer in headlights. The only thing that was moving was my mouth. And I was mechanically forming words, and my face was frozen, right? You're supposed to be neutral. So I had this sort of mask of neutrality. My body was totally rigid. My eyes were freaking out. I was panicked, and my brain was just screaming this sort of loop of, don't mess this up, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. And I was so focused on not failing in that moment that I forgot to succeed. And that's where so many of us go wrong. I was broadcasting information. Yes, absolutely. But I was not communicating. Definitely not the stuff that Emmy Awards are made of. Now, if you fast forward a couple of years, I did win an Emmy. I won 2 of them. One of them is sitting right here behind me. A couple of other awards as well, some Telly Awards and some Society for Professional Journalist Awards. I'm telling you this because I'm making a critical point. It's not that I magically got comfortable in front of the camera overnight. I definitely did not develop nerves of steel. I won those awards because I stopped trying to be perfect, and I started learning the skills of communicating on camera. And they are specific, they are learnable, they are repeatable, and they are skills that will make you look and sound confident and in control and worth listening to, even if your heart is pounding and you're feeling wildly nervous on the inside. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because this camera thing, right? We're all here. We're all in front of the camera today in our own way, and it's not going away. This camera thing is not a temporary trend. If you are an entrepreneur, The stage in person and the stage on camera increasingly is where you convince the world that your ideas matter, right? Is everybody, I think we're all on the
Yeah.
same, yeah?
And I just wanted to mention, Kerry, that I'm also taking a look at all the questions that you may have. So
Yes.
please leave them in the chat. I'm going to try to
Yes.
address most of them. And yeah, amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It will have some time at the end. If there's something that's particularly relevant in the moment, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat. Bruno is as well, but put your questions there. And at the very least, we'll go through and we'll answer as many of them as we can in a first come, first serve basis. All right. So back to the camera thing. And that was a good prompt, Bruno. I appreciate you mentioning that so people know to put their questions in the chat. If you can't show up well on camera, it's not the equivalent of having a bad hair day. You are leaving credibility, you are leaving influence, you are leaving very real opportunity on the table. And it's because you're allowing basically a piece of technology and the confidence and the skills to use it to put a ceiling on your success. Right. The thing is, it does not have to be that way. So I'm going to give you today something I call my MVP framework. Right. We all know most valuable player, but this is the MVP framework for speaking comfortably and confidently and compellingly on camera. This is the very same system that I've used to coach CEOs, that I have used to coach attorneys. I work with a lot of attorneys, founders, business owners, all sorts of leaders and subject matter experts to command attention and command respect every time they hit record. It's very simple. It's very powerful. Hopefully it is very memorable for you as well. So MVP, what does it stand for? The M stands for mindset. And that is the sort of internal state that you set before you speak. Voice is the V, right? So MV, voice, soundtrack to your authority. And then the P of the MVP is your physical performance. And that is the way that your body supports or sabotages your message. I'm going to talk about what each one of them are, why they matter more than you think. And I'm going to show you how really small, almost imperceptible tweaks can make a huge difference in how comfortable and confident you feel, and therefore how you're perceived. So right off the bat, I want to give you a free resource that I have created for you. You are all here because of Big View. And so what I've created is a teleprompter mastery mini course. It teaches you how to prep for, how to write for, and how to read conversationally from a teleprompter. So I was a news anchor, as you know now, for 20 years. So this is a skill that paid my bills for decades. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to being able to deliver from a teleprompter comfortably. I'm going to have the link for that in just a second. For those of you, though, that have the big goal of using the skill of speaking on camera or even speaking on an in-person stage to bring more visibility and bring more revenue to your business, I want you to stick around to the end. Make sure you can stick around to the end because I've opened up just 10 slots for a 30-minute one-on-one on camera and on stage assessment session. And I'm going to be dropping the link to book that call at the end of the training, right? So for those of you that have a goal of growing confidence, of growing visibility, of making a ton of money in your business, you are going to want to make sure that you were able to grab one. But again, you're going to have to stick around for the end. So for those of you that want to grab that free training on how to use the teleprompter, I'm going to share my screen very quickly, and I'm going to put a QR code up on the monitor so that you can grab that particular program. So grab your phone, scan this QR code, and it will take you to a registration page where you can register for my teleprompter mastery mini course. Again, it's free, and hopefully it teaches you the basics of learning to read from a teleprompter in a very conversational way. All right, do we have that? All right, I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to bring my mug back up on camera. Can you see me all right? You can. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm also going to put that link in the chat for those that could not scan. I'm going to put that in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then the link to book one of those limited strategy spots is coming at the end. All right, so are we all good? Can I get a yes in the chat? Yes, 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 yes. Perfect. All right, folks, we'll jump into the first pillar of your on-camera delivery. And I'm talking about, yes, mindset. And before you roll your eyes, this is not about sitting cross-legged and chanting affirmations for 3 hours. This is about very practical neurological warfare. That's what I call it. It is about controlling that internal state in the 30 seconds before you turn your camera on, because that camera is a ruthless magnifier of your energy. Whatever you are feeling, it is going to amplify. So if you are feeling nervous, you are going to look terrified. If you are feeling a little bit unsure, you are going to look entirely lost. But if you are feeling centered and if you are feeling confident, you are going to look authoritative and you are going to look magnetic. Right? So I asked you a question at the beginning of this conversation, and it's who here has ever jumped on a Zoom call or hit record on a video, and in like 5 seconds, your inner critic is losing his or her darn mind, right? I sound weird. I look weird. Word. What am I doing with my hands? Is that a new wrinkle? Everybody thinks I'm an idiot. Right? That is something that I call the mindset gap. And it's that space in between that very competent, intelligent person that you are, I know that you are in real life, and that very sort of insecure and awkward version of yourself that your brain is projecting onto the screen. Now, the problem with that, and we all have it, right? I have it too. I never watch my videos before I post them because I have a terrible inner critic. I just know that I have the skills enough to be able to deliver well on camera. And so I'm, most people that watch it aren't going to hate it. Fingers crossed. But the problem is when you do have that mindset gap and you don't know how to manage it, you carry all that negative energy into the screen, into your delivery. So without a quick sort of mindset reset, you start your video in something that I call recovery mode. So you're already flustered. You're sort of apologizing with your body language. You're spending the first couple of minutes trying to dig yourself out of that hole of self-consciousness instead of owning that first impression. Right? So I had a client of mine, absolutely brilliant intellectual property attorney. And she was offered a major, or a guest spot, I should say, on a major cable news network. She was commenting on this landmark case. And this was going to be absolutely huge for her and, of course, for her firm as well. So the producer of the show at this particular cable network, and this is pretty standard, asked for a quick 30-second test clip from her webcam. They wanted to check the shot. She recorded it. She sent it in, and she didn't get the slot. Right? This would have been massive. The producer's feedback was polite, but it was pretty brutal, and it was lacked on-camera presence. Why? It was not because she wasn't smart enough. She's one of the top experts in her field. Not because she wasn't experienced enough, not by a long shot, but it was because in the first 10 seconds of that clip, the producer was able to see all of it. The hesitation, the darting eyes, right? Moving all over the place, the tension that was in her shoulders, the energy was off. And sometimes it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, but something is off. And in this case, the big linchpin here was her mindset, because it was one of fear, not authority. And the camera was broadcasting that loud and clear. That's the power of mindset. That's why it's the first pillar. It is the gatekeeper to opportunity. Now, you have to get the skills to move into a good mindset, but mindset is the most important thing. And we'll talk about the skills here in just a second. So the good news is that you don't need a ton of therapy to fix this. You do need to develop the skills, right? And the skills will build the confidence, but there's 3 sort of quick micro shifts that you can use in the moments before you hit record. And this will help you practice so that you can build the skills. The first thing is called the reset. And in this particular element, you're calibrating your energy. So your energy state is the foundation. And I'm going to talk more about energy because it's so important a little bit later. But if your energy is too low, you look bored, you look disengaged, you look uninspired. If your energy is too high, you look frantic and you look anxious and you look untrustworthy. The sweet spot is something that I call alert but relaxed. And the fastest way to get there is to use your own physiology. So I'm going to sit up a second. I'm going to try not to move myself out of the shot. Okay, so before you hit record, I want you to perform something called a physiological sigh. It's a technique discovered by neuroscientists at Stanford. I just did the back half of it. It starts, though, with 2 really quick, sharp inhales through your nose, followed by 1 slow, long exhale through your mouth. So it's something like this. You can try it now. I tried it before we went live. The thing about this is that double inhale reinflates those tiny air sacs that are in your lungs, right? So it boosts your energy. And then that long exhale offloads the maximum amount of carbon dioxide. And that is what tells your brain and your nervous system to calm down. Sort of a biological reset button for stress. And you're going to want to do it at least 2 or 3 times, maybe more. But it will instantly bring your heart rate down and it will center you. Now, conversely, on the other side of things, if your energy is too low, put on your favorite power song for 30 seconds or whatever. Do a couple of jumping jacks, shake out your hands. You've got to manually set your energy dial to the right level before that camera starts rolling, right? So that is the reset. The second micro shift is called the reframe. This is where you move from talking to a giant, faceless mass of people to one person. You're reframing your audience. So the idea of talking to, I guess, like I just said, sort of a faceless crowd or the internet is terrifying and it's abstract. And what it does is it makes us perform. The solution here is not to talk to everybody, but rather to talk to one person. So before you begin, think about one specific person that you genuinely like and that you enjoy talking to. Not your most intimidating boss, but maybe it's your favorite client, or maybe it is a colleague that you really trust, or a friend that you adore. Somebody who, when you talk to them, and here's the most important thing, you feel smart, you feel funny, and you feel at ease. Now, and this is easier said than done because it is tricky to imagine this, but I want you to imagine that they're standing right behind that little green dot, right behind the camera lens. In fact, if you want, you can put a picture of them next to your camera. But your goal here is that you're no longer going to give a speech to 1,000 faceless people. The goal is to have a helpful, engaging conversation with Sarah or with David or whoever it is. When you talk to one person, you connect and your tone becomes more neutral and your expressions become more genuine and your delivery becomes a little more conversational. Like, I'm giving this talk right now. And again, I've been talking on camera for 20 years. I'm talking to my business coach, Katie, right? Because I adore talking to her. She makes me feel smart and funny. And I imagine she's very similar to many of you, right? So when you talk to everyone, you connect with no one. That's the key to remember. So you have the reset, the reframe, and then finally, the third micro shift is the release. This is where you're letting go of perfect. This is the most liberating. It is also 100% the hardest. It is releasing the need to be perfect. So many of us, and I've fallen into this trap as well, think that a powerful performance is one that's absolutely flawless. Not a single not a single, like I just said, not a single word that goes wrong. Perfection is a trap, right? Perfect delivery, especially on camera, does not read as authoritative. It reads as stiff, and it reads as robotic, and it reads as rehearsed. And what all of that does is create a barrier between you and the viewer, whomever's watching you, whether it's live or whether it's for social media or whatever, right? Because it doesn't feel human. Connected delivery reads as trustworthy. Your audience would 100%, hands down, much rather see you momentarily trip on a word and recover with a smile than listen to you sound like a robot. A small stumble, like what I'm doing right now, a natural pause to gather your thoughts. They're not mistakes. I don't want you to think about them as if they're mistakes. I want you to think about them as moments of authenticity. They signal to the viewer that you are a real person and that you are thinking in real time. So embrace the human element. Give yourself permission to be 80% perfect. And that 10 to 20% of imperfection, that's where the connection happens. When I worked in the news industry, we used to call those 10 to 20% moments personality showcases, because those were the times that we could actually connect with our audience, right? So then imagine stacking all of these things, the reset, the reframe, the re-release together. You don't have to feel 100% confident. You just have to sort of set the state that makes you look confident, and then the feelings are they're gonna follow. Okay. So that's the first, that's the mindset. The mindset sets the stage, gets your head in the right place. Once you've got that internal state calibrated, the very next thing your audience is reacting to is your voice. Your voice. Voice is the soundtrack to your authority. Now, one of the things that's so important about voice is vocal variety. And I don't know if you know what vocal variety is, let me know in the chat. I know it sounds like kind of a weird thing, but think about it in this way. You could say the same thing 7 different ways, but the way you deliver it will completely change the emotion that's translated. Boy, I'm really happy to see you. Boy, I am really happy to see you, right? The emotion changes when you believe. When you bring emotion into it, that's when people connect to us. And when they connect to us, that is when they start to trust us. And people only buy from people they trust. So here's what all of that sort of looks like. Before people can even process the meaning of your words, they've already made a judgment about you. And that judgment is based on your tone, it's based on your pace, based on your vocal variety, right? It's the change up that you use in your voice. Each change up is a pattern interrupt. It's a chance for you to re-engage your audience, right? If you take a pause, I'll talk a little bit about this in a second. Like that, that's a pattern interrupt. You might have wondered if my shot froze or if I forgot what I was saying, and you might have re-engaged there for a second because I was silent. So your voice is the delivery vehicle for all of these amazing ideas you have. You could have the most brilliant, life-changing message, but if you deliver it in a way that is flat or that is rushed or that is hesitant, that message is gone. And the fastest way to lose your audience is with a delivery that is monotone, or there is a barrage of filler words. And I will say this, like side note, filler words are not a deal breaker. You can use a couple of them and it's perfectly fine. I know people that I just used one just now, that count how many filler words somebody uses in their speech. Nobody is going to avoid hiring you because you said 3 times. It's just not how we work. It's a vocal idiosyncrasy that many of us use. So I just want to set that aside. I don't want you to freak out about that. Too many people freak out about it. But if you have so many that they're distracting, or you speak so quickly that your audience needs subtitles to keep up, those are some of the challenges that happen with voice. So to yourself, or you can say it out loud because nobody can hear you. Your mics are cut. I want you to say a sentence in a completely flat, monotone, kind of rushed voice, like you're reading a grocery list. And the sentence is this: I'm confident on camera. So go ahead and just say that out loud to yourself. Rushed, like you're reading a grocery list, kind of flat. I'm confident on camera. How did that feel? Not super convincing, right? Sorry, I'm looking at the chat too. I want you to say the exact same phrase, but this time I want you to do 3 things. I want you to slow it down by about 25%. I want you to add a little tonal lift at the end of the word confident. And I want you to take a tiny pause right before you say the last word. I'm confident on camera, right? Try saying it that way to yourself. Go ahead. Feel the difference? I hope you did that exercise. Because the words are identical, but the authority is on a completely different level. You can hear the confidence before you can even process the words. That's vocal control. So mastering your voice for the camera comes down to 3 key elements. Number 1 is the pace, and it's really comes down to the gas and the brakes. That's what pace is. Pace is your primary tool for controlling your audience's attention. A lot of people, when they're nervous, speak way too quickly. That signals anxiety, makes it really hard for your listener to absorb your points, right? So use your pace like a gas pedal and a brake. You slow down to emphasize, you speed up to energize. When you're making a critical point, or there is a key takeaway, or you're listing items, or you're making a profound statement, you got to slow down. That is what will tell the listener's brain to pay attention, because this is important. When you are telling vocal, there's a filler word. When you are telling, I almost did it again, an exciting story, when you're listing a series of benefits, or when you're recapping some information that's familiar, maybe you've already talked about it before, you can speed up a little bit. That injects energy and it keeps the momentum going. It's the variation, the contrast between that fast and that slow that keeps the listener's ear engaged. So a constant pace, whether it's fast or slow, is hypnotic, but in the very worst way, because it puts people to sleep. Okay, the second element is your pitch. So you're escaping the monotone here. Pitch is the highness or the lowness of your voice. A monotone delivery, one that stays on a single note, is the enemy of engagement. It's auditory boredom. You see what I did there? That was one monotone statement. It signals to the listener that you are entirely disengaged, and they are very quickly going to follow suit. I can promise you that. You need to vary your pitch so that you can add color and you can add meaning to your words. So think of it like this. A statement generally ends with a downward inflection, kind of like that. A question ends with an upward inflection, right? When you want to stress a word or emphasize a word, you can raise your pitch on that word. So an example of that would be, it wasn't just a good idea, it was a revolutionary idea, something like that. The inflection adds the emotional context in that particular example. There's 2 mistakes that people often make with pitch. One is uptalk, where every sentence ends with a rising inflection, as if it's a question, which undermines your authority. And then vocal fry, which is that low, creaky, gravelly sound that we sometimes end our sentences with, which makes us sound tired or bored. I know that I have that problem often when I'm dehydrated, and certainly when I'm tired. Okay, so we have pacing, we have pitch, and then finally, I want to talk about pauses. These are the secret weapons of confident speakers. So many of us are absolutely terrified of silence. We feel the need to fill every single second with sound, which is why we say like, so, etc. But strategic silence, and you may have heard this called the power pause, is one of the most powerful tools you have. And a pause does a couple of things, 3 things. Number 1, it signals confidence. You're so in control, you're not afraid of the empty space. 2, it gives your audience a moment to process what you just said. And that's crucial if you're talking about information that's complex. And then 3, it builds anticipation for what is coming next. So a pause before a key phrase makes the audience lean in, right? You can also use pauses to mark transitions between certain ideas, or to add weight to an important word, or to give yourself, if you need it, a moment to breathe and to think. Silence is not empty, okay? And I'm going to demonstrate the difference for you. I'm going to say a simple sentence in 2 different ways. Right? The first way, I'm going to deliver it in the way a lot of people do on camera and on stage for that matter. It'll be flat, it'll be rushed, and there will be no pauses. And here's that sentence. Your credibility starts as soon as you open your mouth because your audience is already making judgments based on how you sound, right? One pitch, one pace, no pauses. Now I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to use pace, pitch, and pauses. Your credibility starts as soon as you open your mouth because your audience is already making judgments based on how you sound. See the difference there? Which one has more weight or which one has more authority? Again, like we talked about earlier, the exact same words, but a world of difference in impact. I'm working with a client right now who's a financial planner. He is so smart. I feel like I need to have a dictionary next to me when I'm talking to him to look up the words that he's using. He's empathetic, brilliant, has an amazing track record, but on video calls and on social media, it's a major problem. He speaks a mile a minute, so passionate, so full of information that he absolutely overwhelmed his clients. And on calls, they would constantly interrupt and ask for clarification. And then that would break the flow. Money's always a sensitive subject. It might escalate the tension a little bit. And then the meetings were long and they were inefficient and they were stressful. And on his social media videos, people just didn't watch, right? So here's what we did. We didn't change a single word of what he said. We just worked on his voice. We drilled pace control. We practiced inserting very deliberate pauses after he explained a complex concept so that his clients had a moment to digest it. We worked on using a calmer, lower pitch. And within a couple of weeks, amazing. His meetings were, he says, 30% shorter. Clients said they felt more heard and more understood. And he started getting more agreements closed more quickly. And his social media videos went from a couple of hundred views per video to a couple of thousand. That is the power of vocal control. Doesn't change how you sound, it changes the outcome. All right, so that's mindset, and vocal variety. I want to talk about the final piece of the puzzle. This is the P part of the MVP, and it is the part that the camera never, ever misses. It is your physical performance, and this is how you keep people engaged. This is everything the camera sees. It is your posture, it's your facial expressions, it's your gestures, it is your eye contact. On camera, your body language is under a microscope. And I want to be clear. Every time that you are on a stage or every time you're in front of a camera, you are giving a performance. And I know a lot of people sort of recoil at the word performance in this particular case because it sounds fake. I'm not suggesting you be fake, not by a long shot. What I am suggesting is that you understand that there are so many challenges with delivering communication via a camera, just like there are challenges when you're delivering on a stage, at a conference or a seminar or summit or whatever, right? Excuse me. But you have to understand that performance only means you are aware of those challenges and you're using every single thing you have to overcome them, to mitigate them, so that the message you are trying to relay is received in the way it was intended. Right now, the camera adds some additional challenges that are conceptually sort of similar to what you might experience on a stage in terms of energy, but the camera flattens, right? The camera is energetically flattening. And here's a couple of reasons why. So it takes a three-dimensional person, puts them into a two-dimensional image, which means that every small subconscious habit is completely exaggerated. A little slouch becomes like a full-on slump on screen. Your eyes, they can look shifty and they can look uncertain. If you have hands that are fidgeting with a pen, right, they are a massive distracting blur. Your body is constantly sending signals, and your job is to make sure that they're the right ones. So just like with voice, we can break down physical performance into three core components. Energy. Hands down, the biggest mistake people make. lack of energy. As I mentioned, the camera is energetically flattening, right? So you've got hardware and software that every frame of video and second of audio is going through. And with each pass, the quality gets degraded. Second, there's no context for you of what your viewer is doing or going through, and for your viewer of what's going on around you. Like, you have no idea what's going on outside of this little square. There could be all heck breaking loose. And as I mentioned, then you've taken this 3D person and you've put them in this 2D environment. And then fourth, and maybe most importantly of all, when we get in front of an audience, many of us instinctively get small. And there's a psychological phenomena that comes into play here. And this goes back to millennia, back when we lived in caves and we lived and died by our reptilian brains. When we would leave the cave to go hunt and gather, we were leaving the little bit of safety that we had. We got on the horizon or away from the cave, and the last thing that we would want to do is make big gestures or loud noises because we would attract predators. You see the audience as a predator. We all do. That's exactly where the fear of public speaking comes from. And it's not because they're going to literally kill us, but they can judge us, right? You could reject me. I could fail hard and fail publicly. It's that reptilian brain, and you might hear it called ego, but what it is it's trying to keep us safe. And so it keeps us small. And when we get small, our vocal variety diminishes. We don't move as much. Our facial expressions become more bland. We change our voice. Right? All of those things happen. So practice bumping up your energy. The second thing is eye contact. So this is hands down one of the easiest ways to establish rapport with your audience, but it is probably one of the most difficult. Outside of I hate my voice, the next question that I get the most often is, I don't know where to look, and how do you look at the lens? The lens is the viewer's eyes. Like the microphone is your viewer's ear, the lens is your eye. So if you're looking at their face on their screen from your perspective, you're looking down and you're looking away. You're breaking the connection. To create that feeling of direct personal eye contact, you've got to look directly into the camera lens. It feels unnatural, but I'm telling you, it is a non-negotiable. Now, a couple of tricks. You can place the video window of the person that you're talking to directly underneath your webcam. That way your gaze is in the right general area. Another great trick is to put a small, really brightly colored sticky note with maybe an arrow or a smiley face next to it, so it reminds you where to look. Social media video, hopefully you're looking at the lens the entire time, right? You're not back and forth between a live audience generally. Use the back-facing camera, this one, rather than this one, if you can see that, if you can, because that way you're always looking here and you're not tempted to look at your face in the foreground. It's great practice, right? So use that camera if you need to. For video calls, if you're doing live calls or you're doing client calls or video podcasts or whatever, I can't see your faces here, but specifically, spend about 80% of the time looking directly at the lens and 20% of the time looking at your screen to sort of read the room. So that 80-20 split keeps there from being sort of an unnerving stare down, like a staring contest, and you still maintain a strong sense of connection. And then finally, it's gestures. Speaking with your hands. Your hands can be a very powerful tool, or they can be a massive distraction. The key is to use gestures that have purpose. So nervous, pacifying gestures like touching your face or playing with your hair or wringing your hands, or I don't have a pen that clicks, but clicking your pen. These are all things that are called adapters, and they broadcast anxiety. Instead, you want to use your hands to illustrate your points. So you want to keep your gestures within something called the speaker's box or the confidence box. It's kind of the space, and this is if you're head to toe, that is from waist to mid torso and side to side. Right? I know it's hard to see me here, but if you're doing like a vertical video for social media, that's how you would use it. If you wanted to use hand gestures in a horizontal format, you need to bring your hands up closer to your face to be able for them to be seen. That makes sense. That was very ineloquent. Hopefully you understood what I was trying to say. Open palm gestures signal honesty. You can use your fingers rather to make points. 3 things we need to do. You can use your hands to show scale, huge opportunity, tiny detail. Your gestures have a clear beginning, middle, and end. And when you're not gesturing, you can bring your hands to a neutral sort of resting position, right? It looks calm, it looks controlled. I was working with this was a while ago, a tech founder who was pitching investors over Zoom for a seed round, and her ideas were amazing. Her financial projections were super solid. She kept getting this string of no's though. So I asked her to send me a recording of the pitch that she was doing, and the problem was clear right away. Her words were confident. Her body language though was screaming insecure or unsure. She was slouched over her desk, so she looked smaller. Her eyes were darting all over the place. She kept looking down at her second monitor at really critical moments, like when she talked about the company's valuation, for example. Hands at other times completely hidden under the desk, which sometimes subconsciously can register as hiding something. So we did a complete physical overhaul. We got her a standing desk so she could present with energy. We practiced that 80-20 rule for eye contact. We worked on bringing her hands into the frame. The words of her pitch stayed exactly the same, but her delivery was transformed. And when I tell you, 2 weeks later, she closed her funding round with 2 competing offers. Same words, word for word. I mean, verbatim, different delivery, multi-million-dollar difference. Right. So those are the 3 pillars of the MVP framework. Mindset sets the tone, voice carries it, physical performance seals the deal. And when you put them together, you don't just show up on camera, you own it. And now I'd love to hear from you. I've been trying to keep track of your questions in the chat. I know we've covered a lot, but you probably have specific hurdles. There's a lot we didn't cover: background, lighting, what to wear. Ask me any of that. Or if there's takeaways that you have that you'd like to share, feel free to do so as well.
Amazing. I have one question here ready, Kerry. And this is very interesting because now people don't have a lot of time to show this authority on videos, right? Because people watch maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds of the video before moving to the next one. So this is the question from Carol: how to keep people's attention to get the point across when the average person is only watching a video for 3 seconds?
Yes.
What do you think?
Okay. It's such a good question. And there's really 2 ways to do it. The first is I'm assuming you're talking social media video. Since you're talking about the scroll, you're not talking about a live call. There's 2 ways to do that. Number 1, you need to have an amazing hook. So something that is both stated and visualized, a visual hook, like a title for your video in the beginning that will encourage people to want to stick around. And then state that hook right from the jump. Now, here's where people get that element wrong. There's something called the millennial pause. And this is sometimes it's not even a second between the time that your video starts playing and people hear you talking. And it seems like that in and of itself wouldn't make a difference, but we are so scroll happy. We are so, trigger finger when it comes to scrolling through social media. You've got to be talking right away. So edit your videos so that millennial pause is gone, and make sure that you have both a visual and a verbal hook that encourages people to watch.
Amazing. Let me remove this from the screen.
Yeah.
We had a lot of questions about the teleprompter, about pausing the teleprompter, adding like lines in the middle of the teleprompter script so you can pause in specific moments. I know that you share a QR code with more tips, but what would be the biggest tip for creating a good video using a teleprompter?
Oh, yeah. So I like to use a teleprompter. I post a lot on LinkedIn is my platform, and I do a lot of videos on LinkedIn with a teleprompter. There's a couple of things that I picked up from my 20 years in the news industry that make using a teleprompter a little bit easier. So a couple of things. You always want to use a large font. I like to use 18, right? I always write in all caps, not because I'm yelling, but because it's easier for your brain to absorb the information and then spit it back out in a conversational sort of way. I use a dated font, but it's one that's really good for a teleprompter. It's Courier. And then finally, most people speak at a rate of about 3 words per second ish. We talked a lot about pacing. So you know that there are, you'll speak faster and slower than that. But a good general average is about 3 words per second. So set your prompter at about 180 words per minute. One other thing to be aware of. Yes, you can put blank spaces in there if you want to, you're going to ad lib a little bit and you want to give yourself a little bit of extra time. But reading a teleprompter is sort of like reading music. If you've read music, you probably know what I'm about to say. If you're not, let me explain it for you. What I mean is, as you're reading music and you're playing, whether it's the piano or the violin or the flute or whatever, you're actually reading notes that are a few notes ahead of what you're actually playing so that you can string those notes together without it sounding choppy. On the teleprompter, you're doing the same thing. You're actually reading a few words, unless you're very skilled and you can read one word at a time and make it sound fluid. I mean, I've done this for so long that I can do that. But generally speaking, you want to be reading a couple of words ahead of the words that are actually coming out of your mouth so that you're able to string those words together in a way that sounds fluid and conversational. So there's a few ways that you can go about creating that conversational tone. Absolutely add spaces if you need to. That won't fix everything though.
Okay. And also a tip for the Big View users, you can use, I mentioned here in the chat, a remote clicker to pause and unpause the teleprompter in case you need to improvise something.
Yes.
Or if you're creating, I had a question, especially about long videos. If you're recording a 10-minute video, should I use a teleprompter with all the words or just bullet points? What you have seen that is the best?
Yeah, it really depends on your own personal preference and style. I have done both ways. If I'm giving last week I gave an hour talk and it was not via a prompter, but I wrote the whole thing out word for word. And then I turned that into an outline. If you feel like you can speak more conversationally by using an outline and just seeing those bullets, by all means, use that to deliver your speech. However, until you are a very accomplished speaker, it does help most people to write out their script or their manuscript word for word. And the reason is you can find the spots where you are not organizing your thoughts correctly when you write it out. And then you can recognize if my thoughts aren't ordered correctly or organized effectively here, I'm not going to be able to help my audience organize their thoughts. So that's where the real benefit for writing out the entire thing comes. But by all means, if you deliver better from an outline, take that manuscript and turn it into an outline. That's what I mean by there's really no one right way. It's really a matter of personal preference and where your skills are.
Understood. We do have 2 questions related more to the quality of the video, like a background and lighting. Because if you sound good, if you sound well, you have the confidence, but the lighting is bad. Like I can give you a real life example. Like if I turn off this ring light, this will look very bad. So it doesn't matter what I say here, right? So what are your tips from lighting and background?
So let me see. I'm going to turn off all my lights. And I'm sitting in front of a window, so I'm not sure how much you'll be able to see. So I look a little bit darker here, but not terrible because I'm sitting in front of a window. I actually use 3 lights. I use a light in front of me. You're going to think I'm an egomaniac. And I use a light on either side of me as well. You can get really fancy with your lighting. You can get a key light, which is the light that goes behind you and helps create depth and contrast between you and the background. Most people do not need to worry about that. The best thing you can do is have one soft, diffuse light in front of you. So either a soft box, which you can buy on Amazon, depending on which kind you get, usually around 50 bucks. If you have a ring light, you can use a ring light. I know that using a ring light for hours on end does get a little bit draining. If you want to soften that, I'd put a piece of parchment paper over it and then you create diffuse light. And then I use two lights on either side. They're tube lights. They take up less space, but that way I have sort of a circle of light around me. So each side of my face is lit with full soft light, and that's the most flattering light. And I know you had another question, something
Yeah.
else other than lighting. What was it?
Yeah, it's because it's interesting. I see all the videos that you post. You never use a background
No,
besides your background, right?
yeah.
So, Elite Spa Group has a question. How is important is a background? My office is tidy, but not branded.
Yeah. Well, that is Elite Spa Group. That's such a good
Yep.
question. I'm assuming that you're doing videos about spa practices. I could be entirely wrong about that. But what I would say is this: we do so much video online that unless you are, like like a financial planner or a lawyer or something along those lines, you don't need to have a branded background. It's nice to have some colors, but brand colors, but my background is not branded and I shoot everything here. I mean, I've got some of my awards here, but I've got a couch and a carpet with a wrinkle in it. And I use this for all of my videos. And my videos, some of them on LinkedIn, which is very hard to go viral on, have gotten millions upon millions of views. My point in all of this is saying, if your background is tidy, you don't need to worry about having something that's branded. Most of the time, when we see a branded background, we realize that even if we're not being sold to, we're being sold to. We're aware that there's a company that's looking to make money behind this particular message. So I would suggest not using it. In terms of virtual backgrounds, they can be challenging. Like Bruno, you're using a virtual background, right? Or no, is that your actual
I
background?
am. I am
Yeah.
using a virtual background.
Bruno's background is out of the thousands of backgrounds I've seen, Bruno's background is the best virtual background I've ever seen. Most of the time, they're really sloppy. And that's because the lighting isn't good. So unless you have pristine lighting, I would suggest not using a virtual background. And I probably answered about a million different questions there, but I tried to fit everything in.
Okay. I think it does make sense at the end. Without a good lighting, the background replacement would be bad.
Yeah. Yep.
So we need a good lighting and the proper background. It could be the real background depending on the video creating.
Yeah.
And Kerry, before we answer more questions, do you want to give the giveaway since we have 5 more minutes?
Yes. Let me pull that up and let me share.
What is the giveaway again?
This giveaway is, sorry, I've got to share my screen. This giveaway is I've opened up 10 spots for a free 30-minute one-on-one assessment call with me. We will look at what you're struggling with, whether it has to do with speaking on camera, speaking on a stage, creating video, and create a plan together, a strategy to get you from where you are now to where you want to go. So bring your questions, bring your challenges, and I will help you create a plan to get you from point A to point B. But I only have 10 of these. And there was, I think, 600 people that registered for this call. So if you are interested in snagging one, I would suggest scanning and going ahead and booking that as soon as you can.
Yeah, let me
I'll
also
leave it up
drop
on
that
the
in the
screen for a little
chat.
bit. You putting it in the chat?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I'm putting the chat right now. If you're fast, you might be the first 10 to get this call with Kerry. It's in the chat right now. Good. And let's answer one more question
Okay.
while you have the QR code on the screen.
Oh, whoops. I just stopped sharing. Can you still see it?
Nope.
Okay,
Just
hold on one second. I'll pull it up again. There we go.
Okay, it's back.
Yes.
Good.
But now I can't see the questions. So
We can, we can.
I'll depend on you to read them to me, I think.
Uh-huh. We had some questions related to which remote they should use on Big View. Any remote Bluetooth clicker that works with your device will work on Big View. The same one that you use for taking pictures, that one will
Mhm.
work for pausing and unpausing teleprompter
Yep.
on Big View. Uh,
If you want
Besides
to,
that,
oh,
yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, if you want to get really basic, one of the other things that you can do if you don't have a clicker, but you are delivering something on your webcam, for example, is use your mouse to scroll your videos. Or to scroll your teleprompter. And when you need to stop, then you stop scrolling. It is a cumbersome way to do it, but if you don't have a clicker or you're intimidated by technology, that's an easy workaround as well.
Good. We do have one more question, Kerry, and you are the
Yeah.
best person to answer this question because let me find the question. Was about okay, found it. Any tips for how to keep light from shining on your eyeglasses?
Oh,
Because you're
yes.
wearing glasses, so
Yes,
tips on
I
that.
am wearing glasses, and this is a challenge. I have the anti-reflection and the anti-glare, but that really doesn't do anything. When you're sitting in front of lighting, it is definitely a challenge, especially as you move, you move your head, your glasses might catch the light. But if you can remember that it comes down to basic geometry, then you'll have a good chance of making sure that you've minimized that reflection. What I mean by that is the the reflection from your glasses is created by the lights shining directly into your glasses. And most of the time that happens because we have our lights or our monitors or whatever it is right at eye level. And so the light is shining directly into our glasses and then directly back at the camera. If you can raise your lights so that they're slightly above eye level and tilted down just a little bit, you avoid that direct reflection. You still get the same soft, full light, but the lights, again, because they're slightly above eye level and they're tilted down, they're not shining directly into your glasses. That it's not perfect, but that's the best way to try and get rid of that eyeglasses glare. Are you there?
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
The QR code is still on the screen. The link is also in the chat. And it's time to also offer the Big View giveaway. We're offering for 24 hours any user that wants to upgrade the plan. If you have a starter plan, free plan, you want to upgrade to the next tier, you can use this link for the next 24 hours and get 20% off. The link is in the chat. 24 hours. So if you're watching the recording of this session on Monday, I'm sorry, but maybe next time. And Kerry, what do you think? Final words for someone
Final
that
word.
they just want to start creating more videos to post on social media, but they're still struggling to, it's not good enough. Maybe they do the recording, but they don't post because it
Right.
doesn't look good enough for them. What you
Okay, so I would say this. The competence, meaning the understanding of the skills, comes before the confidence. So you're going to have to practice in order to get to where you want to go. There's a few things. Number one, I always suggest starting with what I call the 30 and 30-day challenge. Open up your phone, again, record into this side, not into this side, and practice riffing. Just ad lib for 30 seconds about anything. It doesn't need to be about work. It can be about a new restaurant you're looking to try, how you're excited for your first cup of coffee in the morning, whatever it is. It's not for anybody, just for you, right? And then go back and watch that video and pick one thing that you want to work on. And maybe it's one of the things that we talked about today. Maybe it's energy, or maybe it's eye contact, or maybe it is hand gestures or whatever. Work on that and try and get your arms around it. You won't have it perfect, but you'll understand what it feels like. Then pick the next thing to work on and work on that and do that for 30 days. And maybe you only get through one thing, and that's perfectly fine. But I promise when you look at the difference between video 1 and video 30, you will noticeably see an improvement in skills. If you try and fix everything all at once, you'll get frustrated, you'll hate yourself, and you won't practice anymore. That's the worst thing to do. Run one race and practice that until you feel like you're close to the finish line. I will also say this. It's very easy to look at the camera as a judge. I want you to try and think about it as a gateway instead. It is a gateway to visibility. It is a gateway to revenue. It is a gateway to opportunity. I have clients right now who are on MSNBC and the BBC and News Nation and Fox Business because they're good on camera. Developing this skill will take you places you never dreamed possible. Aside from building your confidence, it will take your business to places that you never dreamed possible. So think of it as a gateway, and I will 100% support you in your ability to get from where you are now to where you want to go. Please book one of those calls. And I look forward to seeing you through the lens.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Kerry.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this session. I'm going to receive a follow-up email with the recording of this training. And I really hope this was helpful. Let's book that call with Kerry. I'm not sure if we still have spots. If not, sorry, maybe next time. They can also connect with you on LinkedIn, right? Let me share your LinkedIn here in the chat.
Yes.
So you can find more about Kerry on LinkedIn. You see that she posts, basically it's every day, Kerry, that you're posting?
I post every day. Yeah, very often it's a video. Most of the time it's a video. 6 days out of 7, it'll be a video. So I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn as well. I post daily tips on video content creation, speaking on camera, media, etc.
Great. So the link is in the chat. Thank you so much for your time, Kerry. Thank you everyone for being here. Hope that you have an amazing day. And yeah, thank you. Let me play an outro video and I'll let you guys go. Thank you guys. Take care. Thank you, Kerry.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
With the BigView teleprompter, create videos you're proud of. Easily trim your video by selecting the words where you want to start and end. Color your presentation with automatic subtitles and highlighting keywords. Add your brand logo. Add music for an emotional touch. Add your contact info on an animated business card on all your videos. Easily replace green screen with an image or a video loop. Stand out with a web page with your logo, your video at the center, and personalized button for visitors to interact. It's one tap to simultaneously upload your videos on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Always know what to say next with the BigView teleprompter.